Other crops: sugarcane, tea, coffee are other important crops grown in India. Sugarcane. Sugarcane is the crop of tropical areas. Under rain-fed conditions, it is cultivated in subhumid and humid climates, but it is largely an irrigated crop in India. In Indo-Gangetic plains, its cultivation is largely concentrated in Uttar Pradesh. Sugarcane growing areas in western India is spread over Maharashtra and Gujarat. In page 52, figure 5.9 about the distribution of sugarcane is shown. In southern India, it is cultivated in irrigated tracts of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh. India was the second largest producer of sugarcane after Brazil in 2014. It accounts for about 19% of the total production of the sugarcane, but it occupies only 2.4% of the total cropped area in the country. Uttar Pradesh produces about two-fifths of the sugarcane of country. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh are other leading producers of this crop where yield level of sugarcane is high. Its yield level is low in northern India. Tea. Tea is plantation crop used as beverage. Black tea leaves are fermented whereas the green tea leaves are unfermented. Tea leaves have rich content of caffeine and tannin. It is indigenous crop of hills in northern China. It is grown over undulated topography of hilly areas and well-drained soils in humid and subhumid tropics and subtropics. In India, tea plantation started in 1840 in Brahmaputra Valley of Assam, which still is a major tea growing area in the country. Later on, its plantation was introduced in the sub-Himalayan regions of West Bengal, Darjeeling, Jalpaiguri, and Cooch Behar districts. Tea is also cultivated in the lower slopes of Nilgiris and Cardamom Hills in Western Ghats. India is the leading producer of the tea and accounts for about 21.22% of total production in the world, according to 2018 census. India's share in international market of tea has declined substantially. It ranks second among tea exporting countries in the world after China in 2014. Assam accounts for about 53.2% of the total cropped area and contributes more than half of the total production of the tea in the country. West Bengal and Tamil Nadu are the other leading producers of tea. Coffee. Coffee is a tropical plantation crop. Its seeds are roasted, ground, and are used for preparing a beverage. There are three varieties of coffees: Arabica, Robusta, and Liberica. India mostly grows superior quality coffee, Arabica, which is in great demand in international market. But India produces only about 3.7% of the coffee of the world and ranks 6th after Brazil, Vietnam, Colombia, Indonesia, and Ethiopia. In 2014, coffee is cultivated in the highlands of western Ghats of Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. Karnataka alone accounts for more than two-thirds of the total production of the coffee in the country. Agriculture development in India. Agriculture continues to be an important sector of Indian economy. In 2001, about 53% of the population of the country was dependent on it. The importance of agricultural sector in India can be gauged from the fact that about 57% of its land is devoted to crop cultivation. Whereas in the world, the corresponding share of it is only about 12%. In spite of this, there is a tremendous pressure on agricultural land in India, which is reflected from the fact that the land human ratio in the country is only 0.31 hectares, which is almost half of that of the world as a whole, that is 0.59 hectares. Despite various constraints, Indian agriculture has marched a long way since independence. Strategy of development. Indian agricultural economy was largely subsistence in nature before independence. It had dismal performance in the first half of the 20th century. This period witnessed severe droughts and famines. During partition, about one-third of the irrigated land is undivided in India went to Pakistan. This reduced the proportions of irrigated area in independent India. After independence, the immediate goal of the government was to increase food grain production by 1. Switching over from cash crops to food crops, 2. Intensification of cropping over already cultivated land, and 3. Increasing cultivated area by bringing cultivable and fallow land under plough, that is under cultivation. Initially, this strategy helped in increasing food grain production, but agriculture production stagnated during late 1950s. To overcome this problem, Intensive Agricultural District Program, that is IADP, and Intensive Agricultural Area Program, IAAP, were launched. But two consecutive drought during mid 1960s resulted in food crisis in the country. Consequently, food grains were imported from other countries. New seed varieties of wheat, Mexico, and rice, Philippines, known as high yielding varieties HYVs, were available for cultivation by mid 1960s. India took advantage of this and introduced package technology comprising HYVs, along with the chemical fertilizers in irrigated areas of Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, and Gujarat. Assured supply of soil moisture through irrigation was a basic prerequisite for the success of this new agricultural technology. This strategy of agricultural development paid dividend instantly and increased the food grain production at very fast rate. This part of agricultural growth came to be known as Green Revolution. This also gave fillip to the development of large number of agro inputs, agro processing industries and small scale industries. This strategy of agricultural development made the country self-reliant in food grain production. But green revolution was initially confined to irrigated areas only. This led to regional disparities in agricultural development in the country till 1970s, after which the technology spread to eastern and central parts of the country. The Planning Commission of India focused its attention on the problems of agriculture in rain-fed areas in 1980s. It initiated agroclimate planning in 1988 to induce regionally balanced agricultural development in the country. It also emphasized on the need for diversification of agriculture and harnessing of resources for the development of dairy farming, poultry, horticulture, livestock rearing and aquaculture. Initiation of policy of liberation and free market economy in 1990s influenced the course of development of Indian agriculture. Lack of development of the rural infrastructure, withdrawal of subsidies and price support and impediments in availing of the rural credits may lead to inter-regional and interpersonal disparities in rural areas. Growth of agricultural output and technology. There has been a significant increase in agricultural output and improvement in technology during the last 50 years. Production and yield of many crops such as rice, wheat has increased at an impressive rate. Among the other crops, the production of sugarcane, oilseeds, and cotton has also increased appreciably. India ranked first in the production of pulses and jute in 2011. It is the second largest producer of rice, wheat, groundnut, sugarcane, and vegetables. Expansion of irrigation has played a crucial role in enhancing agricultural output in the country. It provides basis for introduction of the modern agricultural technology such as high yielding varieties of seeds, chemical fertilizers, pesticides and farm machineries. The net irrigated area in the country has increased from 20.85 to 54.66 million hectares over the period of 1950 to 51 to 2000 to 2001. Over those 50 years, area irrigated more than once is in an agricultural year has increased from 1.71 to 20.46 million hectares. Modern agricultural technologies has diffused very fast in various areas of the country. Consumption of chemical fertilizers has increased by 15 times since mid 60s. In 2001 to 2002, per hectare consumption of chemical fertilizers in India was 91 kg, which was equal to its average consumption in the world, 90 kgs. But in the irrigated areas of Punjab, Haryana, the consumption of chemical fertilizers per unit area is 3 to 4 times higher than that of the national average. Since the high yielding varieties are highly susceptible to pests and diseases, the use of pesticides has increased significantly since 1960s. Problems of Indian agriculture. The nature of problems faced by the Indian agriculture varies according to the agro-ecological and historical experiences of its different regions. Hence, most of the agricultural problems in the country are region specific. Yet, there are some problems which are common and range from physical constraint to institutional hindrance. A detailed discussion on these problems are as follows. Dependence on erratic monsoon. Irrigation covers only 33% of the cultivated area in India. The crop production in rest of the cultivated land directly depends on rain. Poor performance of a southwest monsoon also adversely affects the supply of canal water for irrigation. On the other hand, the rainfall in Rajasthan and other drought prone areas is too meager and highly unreliable. Even the areas receiving high annual rainfall experience considerably fluctuations. This makes them vulnerable to both droughts and floods. Drought is a common phenomenon in the low rainfall areas, which may also experience occasional floods. The flash floods in dry lands of Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Rajasthan in 2006 and 2017 are examples of this phenomenon. Droughts and floods continue to be the twin menace in Indian agriculture. Low productivity. The yield of the crops in the country is low in comparison to the international level. Per hectare output of most of the crops such as rice, wheat, cotton and oil seeds in India is much lower than that of the USA, Russia and Japan. Because of very high pressure on the land resources, the labor productivity in Indian agriculture is also very low in comparison to international level. The vast rain-fed areas of the country, particularly dry lands, which mostly grow coarse cereals and pulses oil seeds, have low yields. Constraints of financial resources and indebtedness. The inputs of modern agriculture are very expensive. This resource intensive approach has become unmanageable for marginal and small farmers as they have very meager or no saving to invest in agriculture. To tide over these difficulties, most of such farmers have resorted to availing credits for various institutions and money lenders. Crop failures and low returns from agriculture have forced them to fall in the trap of indebtedness. Lack of land reforms. Indian peasantry had been exploited for a long time as there had been unequal distribution of land. Among the three revenue systems operational during British period, that is Mahalwari, Rayatwari and Jamindari, the last one was the most exploitative for the peasants. After independence, the land reforms were accorded priority, but these reforms were not implemented effectively due to lack of strong political will. Most of the state governments avoided the taking politically tough decisions which went against the strong political lobbies of landlords. Lack of implementation of land reforms has resulted in continuation of iniquitous distribution of cultivable land, which is detrimental to agricultural development. Small farm size and fragmentation of land holdings. There are large number of marginal and small farmers in the country. More than 60% of the ownership holdings have a size smaller than 1 hectare. Furthermore, about 40% of the farmers have operational holding size smaller than 0.5 hectares. The average size of our land holding is shrinking further under the increasing population pressure. Furthermore, in India, the land holdings are mostly fragmented. There are some states where consolidation of holding has not been carried out even once. Even the states where it has been carried out, once second consolidation is required as land holding have fragmented again in the process of division of land among the owners of the next generation. The small size fragmented land holdings are uneconomic. Lack of commercialization. A large number of farmers produce crops for self consumption. These farmers do not have enough land resources to produce more than their requirement. Most of the small and marginal farmers grow food grains which are meant for their own family consumption. Modernization and commercialization of agriculture have, however, taken place in the irrigated areas. Vast underemployment. There is a massive underemployment in agriculture sector in India, particularly in the unirrigated tracts. In these areas, there is a seasonal unemployment ranging from 4 to 8 months. Even in the cropping season, work is not available throughout as agricultural operations are not labor intensive. Hence, the people engaged in agriculture do not have the opportunity to work around the year. Degradation of cultivable land. One of the serious problems that arises out of the faulty strategy of irrigation and agricultural development is degradation of land resources. This is serious because it may lead to depletion of soil fertility. The situation is particularly alarming in irrigated areas. A large tract of agricultural land has lost its fertility due to the alkalization and salinization of soils and waterlogging. Alkalinity and salinity have already affected about 8 million hectare lands. Another 7 million hectare land in the country has lost its fertility due to waterlogging. Excessive use of chemicals such as insecticides and pesticides have led to their concentration in toxic amounts in the soil profile. Leguminous crops have been displaced from the cropping pattern in irrigated areas, and duration of fallow has substantially reduced owing to multiple cropping. This has obliterated the process of natural fertilization, such as nitrogen fixation. Rainfed areas in humid and semi-arid tropics also experience degradation of several types like soil erosion by water and wind erosion, which are often induced by human activities.